What are you doing? Moving.
This is Viewer Takeover. We film every Monday night and then we bring it to YouTube every Tuesday. That's a total lie at this point. I think most episodes have been going up way later than that, but that's okay because they usually show up sometimes, eventually on this channel right here. PSVR Without Parole, where I'm from, Brian Paul. The guys to my right, the boys, Dave Station from Dave
VR.
I mean, it's Dave Station from Dave. If we're gonna go
I think it's time for a rebranding scheme. I'm gonna become Dave VR, and my intro is just gonna be that clip of you going Dave VR.
Dave. I like it. I like it a lot.
Pretty good, right?
That guy on the right hand side of the screen is AJ from the Underground PSVR Underground.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Not too bad.
Dude, we're filming this 5 hours before Kojima Productions announces something big, so I'm sure whatever we say tonight is going to be totally irrelevant by the time this thing actually goes live. I can't wait.
I think it will be relevant still.
Probably pretty relevant. Listen, on Viewer Takeover, we want to thank a whole lot of people. And the first person we want to thank, of course, is Orseek the Game Cat for that awesome Viewer Takeover introductions.
You know, it was a nice plug for the socks that you can buy down below. Nice reminder to me that, I lose socks all the time. So I'd like to pick up a pair of those because I feel like I'll either lose them, but I will never get them confused with another sock.
That's true.
True.
I feel weird that we have to buy our own channel's branded socks. Like give us a couple for free, Redbubble or whatever the fuck. Come on.
Teespring. Yeah. No, I mean,
Teespring.
I don't even have one of everything. I've had to buy it all. Luckily I get to buy it at cost, but I gotta tell you, the stuff on Teespring is only like a couple dollars more than cost. Like I'm not making really any money off of this. I'm making a few bucks here and there because I'd rather have more people have it than make like a huge profit off of it. That's ridiculous. Thank you so much, Orseek, for that fantastic Viewer Takeover introduction. If you out there, some random game cat that's looking in going, man, that would be a lot of fun to be at the beginning of their show next week. If you want to introduce next week's Viewer Takeover, make sure you keep it short, sweet, sexy, possibly southern, and even sucky. Send it to withoutparole@gmail.com.
Keep it Sippel and Ollie, guys.
That's right.
Sippel and Ollie.
But of course, Orseek and all of the game cats out there that sent Viewer Takeover introductions and will in the future are not doing people we want to thank. We also want to thank these people down here. People who went to patreon.com/withoutparole.
Games
VR.
Just one games. If you put all those in it, you're not going to find the right place. And they're the ones giving us $1 or more every single month because they love us almost as much as we love them. Hopefully it's only $1 to you. But the idea is if you get like 1,000 people or 2,000 people like all giving us $1, then it's like a small contribution.
It's almost like you're making like normal money for a job that you're doing.
One of these days, Dave. One of these days. So thank you very much for that. But AJ, who else do we want to thank this week?
We would like to thank those who support us in another way by changing their name on YouTube to something GameCat related, something GameCat adjacent, as you or something GameCat adjacent would like to say. And all you have to do is just leave a comment on any video and put #GameCat so it makes it easy for us to find. And this week we have 7 new GameCats to welcome to the GameCat Dojo.
Oh yeah.
Starting with, there might just be a gremlin in the #GameCat.
Man, hotcakes, doing it every single week, keeping it up every single time. I love it. And I got to say, Gremlins, maybe my first, maybe not my first, but definitely my favorite Christmas.
We were talking about Christmas movies. I always mentioned Die Hard and Nightmare Before Christmas. One of the Game Cats mentioned Gremlins. I'm like, yes, that is a fantastic Christmas movie. Another one.
Charlie Brown Christmas. I like Charlie Brown Christmas. It's properly melancholy. It suits me.
We've also got Jeff Cat and Tonic Game Cat Powell.
Love it. Ooh. Love it. Tonic, always a good mixer. Always makes everything a little bit smoother.
Cat, not the greatest liquor.
I've never been. Yeah,
actually, they're pretty good at. They're pretty good liquors.
That's an excellent point.
A fantastic liquor.
Who else we got? AJ?
I'll take the cat. Neat. David and the Game Cats.
I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's Dash David Dash.
Okay. I
Okay.
like. It sounds like a band. Like
It-
that definitely should be a band. Buy their album, support them on SoundCloud, and
It's
share it
not.
to your friends.
It's not a
I
huge
need
jump from Josie and the Pussycats.
if you're out there and your name is Benny, I need to see a Benny and the Cats
Oh my
like as soon as I possibly can.
We've also got Caloderma Game Cat.
Does anybody know what a caloderma is?
No.
No, it's a medical
it sounds
condition that you
cool.
don't want to research because if it happened to you, it'd be real bad.
Oh,
Okay, stay off of WebMD. Who else we got?
we've got J Mind the Game Cat.
Hell
He
yeah.
don't mind. He don't mind. He don't mind.
J-Mine's always in the Discord, so it's nice to see that he finally came around on the YouTube side of things.
And making another appearance is Roy Matumbo, the Earl Grey Game Cat.
Roy,
Hot.
please don't change your name every week because I don't know if I can handle hearing that.
Yeah,
every
AJ
single week.
can't do that anymore.
Dunked on it. Finally, last but not least, we've got the Bearsteak Game Cat's Cavern.
What
Who,
up,
by the way,
Hugo? Yeah.
yeah, long time without parole fan and just overall sweet guy. So good to see you, man. Thanks for changing your name and good to see you around again.
If you change your name to GameCat in YouTube, on YouTube or in YouTube, I don't care either way. Something to
On
GameCat,
it,
man.
in it.
Make sure you comment below on this video right here. Hashtag GameCat, all one word, and let us know that you changed your name so we can give you a shout out on next week's show. But Dave, what do we really do here on this show?
Well, what we do is we collect questions that are highly enticing, highly interesting from all over the internet. AJ plays some drums for me while I'm talking through the intro. I love it. And what we do here is we just get these questions and we eat them up and we spit out some answers once a week for you on the internet. And so this will be that. Brian, the first question comes to us from Elsie2552Beats, who commented on last week's viewer takeover. He says, hashtag viewer takeover like a pro. What do you guys value more? Innovation, parentheses, things like hand tracking, adaptive triggers, new controllers, haptic feedback, or pure performance, resolution and headset, refresh rate, etc. So yeah, the basic thing here is what's more exciting, a new way to interact with games or a new way to see them in a higher quality? What do you guys think?
Can we answer this question under the assumption that like next gen PSVR and stuff is gonna actually update itself to at least be on par with PC VR in terms of like, oh, we're gonna get new controllers with analog sticks? Because I don't think of that as innovative or anything. I think that's just getting caught up to the current technology. So with that in mind, what do you guys think?
Personally, I think these are all important. These things all together, I think, come together to make the best game possible. Now, that being said, stuff like hand tracking, and I've said this before, like hand tracking is something specifically that I'm like, that's cool, but that's not going to make a game good, whether or not it has that. But then it has these adaptive triggers, new controllers, haptic feedback, and those do interest me a lot. So it's kind of a tricky question for me. I'm definitely looking forward to more performance. I love, I have come to the realization I am kind of a graphics snob and stuff, and when stuff looks really good, it makes it more immersive to me. So I think if you take away either one of these, it's going to lessen the value of the game and overall experience in any way possible. So they're all important to me, really.
Yeah, I'm kind of in AJ's camp here because like there are parts of each of these, like what you've got in parentheses here, that are important, but other parts of each of them that are not as important. So for me, like hand tracking doesn't even matter at all. We don't need hand tracking. What we would like to have is new controllers, adaptive triggers, haptic feedback. And if they took the DualSense technology and put that in a VR controller, that would be innovation. That would be awesome. And that's what I would like. But I don't care so much about hand tracking. And on the other side, like I care a lot more about refresh rate than I do about resolution, because that's the kind of thing that will get people comfortable in VR. It doesn't have to be the prettiest looking game as long as it runs really smoothly. And the closer you can get to the feeling of turning your head left and right in the real world with the sort of refresh rate and frame rate and stuff like that, I think that will be more helpful. So it's a little bit of both. Like I think that they need certain things from each column here to to make a full package.
I'm definitely when it comes to all of this stuff that he's listed, I'm way more in the pure performance side of things. Like I said, I think next gen we're going to get decently caught up to PC VR, and we're going to have all the things that we need to enjoy games properly, like analog sticks, and getting rid of light tracking, and using something that's inside out tracking, something that's like just kind of become the standard. Again, that's not really innovation, and that's what I want. I want to just get caught up to the PC VR side of things. Sorry, sirens on my end, as always. So what I really want is, for the first time since, like, I think the leap from PS1 to PS2, I care about graphics. There was a certain point after PS2 where I'm just like, no, everything looks good enough, and I just don't care anymore. Like, PS3 looks great, PS4 looks even better, PS5 looks fantastic, but I'm like, I just don't really care about, those. You could look at it from a technical standpoint and say they're significant jumps, technologically speaking, but it's boring to me at a certain point. Where we are with PlayStation VR 1 is so kind of in that primitive stages, like the PS1 era, where it's like that big leap to next gen is going to be very significant. And so we sacrificed a lot of resolution, texture pop in, load times. We sacrificed a lot of things to get the immersion. Now that we've got the immersion, I want those other things back. Right? Give me the high res graphics, the realistic textures, like the stuff that like will make at least PlayStation 5 VR games look at least as good as PS4 games did on a flat screen.
I agree that I lean slightly more towards pure performance because, I've been able to enjoy games like Operencia and Minecraft and stuff. And they're very much just a game in VR with a controller. And they're not so much immersive as they are just like fun, like immersive in terms of gameplay. But that's what I was going to say, was that I usually pit all of these things he asked us, rather than pitting them against each other. I usually bundle those up and put that, what is more important, that or gameplay. And I think gameplay, game design, things like that are more so what I look at versus like the features and the performance versus the game design and the gameplay.
Well, yeah, and like in VR, you want to see innovation in game design. Like when you see a game like Superhot VR, like that is innovation in game design.
Right.
That no game was like that ever, and it only can work in VR. Beat Saber is the same thing. That's a game that can only happen in the physical space or the virtual space of VR. Like it wouldn't work otherwise. And so that's the kind of stuff that I think we need to keep seeing more of, to sort of define the platform as a place where only these kind of experiences can take place in VR. Like you can't get that anywhere else.
Yeah. Right.
So I think, yeah.
I think it'll be that, and along with the other stuff that we're getting. Like I think it's all. I think for a very long time, it's going to be the people who are innovating and bringing us new ways to look at things and new ways to control things and new ways to play games. And then, of course, like the standard game. Like I always go back to Resident Evil 7. Of course, it doesn't do too much as far as VR is concerned. The head tracking is fantastic, but everything else is pretty much the same as the flat screen game. And I think it did a fantastic job of bringing itself into VR. So I don't think you always have to reinvent the wheel, but having a nice combination of those two things, the two different sides of things, doing it together, bringing us tons of content for VR, I think is very important. Who's the next question from, AJ?
This comes from Ben Schroeder on the Discord. It says #viewer takeover. Since the three of you no doubt has a nice collection of PSVR Platinum trophies, what are some you found the most fun to obtain? And what would you recommend to fellow trophy hunters?
So I'm going to let you guys take this one because I have 0 platinum trophies. I've
Really?
never in my life gotten a platinum trophy. I don't.
Oh, we need to fix that.
I don't care about it that much. I was going to platinum Tsushima, but then I just didn't. And I've just never platinumed anything. So I think, AJ, you're probably the voice of wisdom here on this one, right?
Sort of. If I had prepared better for this question, maybe. But I'll tell you,
We'll fix it in post.
the first platinum trophy that I got from VR, that will always be super special to me, was Moss. I always right there. That was the first VR platinum trophy I got that kind of kickstarted my entire obsession with getting VR platinums. There's a couple other games, but Moss is just such a fantastic one. I think you can get it within 7 hours and stuff. Total play time took me 7 hours to beat the game and go back and get the trophies.
Was that before the DLC or after the DLC?
But that was before the DLC. The DLC
Okay.
I think added about like an hour or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, Moss is just one that I love the layout of it. I'll also add one more just for the hell of it. Astrobot. Astrobot is such a fantastic platinum trophy to go after as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most rewarding one I had done was Beat Saber, because Beat Saber,
Oh yeah.
I certainly wasn't very good at when I started playing it, and I only played it in small spurts. So when I finally get around to saying, I'm going to commit myself to Beat Saber, and I'm going to do my absolute best to get good at this game, and I started playing hours every day. It was like, I think at a certain point I was playing 2 hours every single day. And you don't even have to beat songs on Expert Plus. Like, that's just bonus.
It's expert level.
Yeah, so you basically, it doesn't take that long, I think, to get the platinum trophy. It just takes some time and commitment. And so actually seeing my progress and seeing I went from somebody who's like embarrassed to play Beat Saber live in front of people to being like, oh, I can handle this. I can play most songs on Expert, or almost all songs on Expert. Although I'm still struggling, I think, with some of the Linkin Park songs. I don't know what's going on there.
Oh man, I love those Linkin Park songs. I actually bought that DLC for my Quest as well, just so I could play it on anything,
Nice.
anytime I wanted to. That's like one of my favorite packs so far. I really like that one.
Absolutely.
Cool mapping and stuff, but pretty hard, yeah, on the higher difficulties.
And I know it's a very expected thing for me to say, but Resident Evil 7 was the absolute most fun I've had getting a platinum ever, because I got to play my favorite game of all time over and over and over again, and have an excuse to play over and over and over again, and being like, this time I'm going to go do this time I'm going to go do this time I'm going to do this. And it was just really fun to experience that game in every single way possible. I don't have 100% of the trophies because I don't have all the trophies for all the DLC. There's a ton of DLC, but I do have the platinum trophy, and that was really fun getting. Unlike Saints and Sinners, that like you should really do on your first. You should try to get the platinum on your first run if you can, because man, or at least start a new game with the intent of getting a platinum. Don't load your last game and then go back and try to do stuff, because the stuff you need just won't be where you need it to be. It's probably just as fast and way more fun to start a new game and get the platinum.
Just as a side note, I think Ben Schroeder has a bunch of platinums. I think he already has the Beat Saber platinum too. So I think he is a trophy hunter. But the cool thing about VR games is that they are usually a lot shorter, and the platinums are usually a lot easier to obtain. Now that doesn't go for every game. Some are grueling, some are really, really hard to get. But there's a bunch. So I would just stick to a game you love, a game that you love to death, and go for the platinum. I think you'll really like it.
Dude, I'm so excited to get the Swords of Gargantua platinum. Like, that is
Me too.
just I'm obsessed with that game right now. I've got so much work to do, and every time I feel like I'm getting stressed out and I can't focus, I'm like, I just need a distraction. I go start that game up, and I choose to either play by myself or with other people in a quick match, and it doesn't matter. I always have fun in that game, and every single time I make a little bit more progress. I level up my greatsword and or level up my character a little bit, and inch closer. I get another trophy every single time I play that game, and I'm inching closer to the platinum. And it's going to be one of those that I feel like I'm just going to get naturally, because I'm just making progress every single time, and I absolutely love that. Next question, I think, comes to us from Todd, the father mucking Came Gat, over on Discord. Let me scroll up a little bit so I can read it. He writes, hashtag viewer takeover. With the disastrous launch of CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 on console and widespread reports of it running at 10 to 20 FPS, how does this pass Sony's QA? Do you feel like they're being fair in holding a much higher standard toward greenlighting a VR title and holding it to run at 60 FPS compared to a flat game that drops as low as 10 frames per second and is riddled with bugs? Question mark.
So my answer for this one is a game like Cyberpunk, even if it runs poorly, it's not going to turn people off of the technology of flat screen gaming. Whereas with VR, like if a game runs really poorly and that's your first experience in VR, you just got a new headset, you tried this game out, and it runs, say, at 20 frames a second. That will A, make you nauseous, B, make you have a headache, C, you might get sweaty, D, you're going to think this technology sucks. I hate this. Why would I do this thing? And so it's easy in VR to have a bad time and write off the whole thing. Because, like, say you only played one flat screen game and you're the type of person who gets like motion sickness from first person shooters or something. And that was the first and only game you had played on your new device that you had never tried before. You'd be like, oh, this sucks. I'm getting sick just playing this game. I don't like this thing. And so I think really they have a strong reasoning behind the fact that VR has to run at a certain frame rate. Whereas flat screen games, like, I mean, of course, it sucks that it doesn't run properly, but like it doesn't go through the same QA process because there's not as much to lose by giving someone a bad experience with one flat game versus one VR game. Like, you can feel sick for an hour, 2 hours afterwards if you have a bad VR experience, whereas with flat screen, it's not really the same thing.
So I have to slightly correct you. I agree with you to some degree. Yes, mainstream media outlets that are recording this, like IGN, said that when it drops down to 10 to 20 frames per second and stuff, that they mention in the review that they are getting sick, that they are getting headaches.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it doesn't influence their opinion of flat gaming as a platform, whereas
It's
with
a little bit more established, right? You know, there's
one bad experience with VR and write it off forever and ever.
Right.
And so, like, it's the stakes are higher.
Definitely a risk you can take there if you go out and buy a headset for a certain game. But I think under no circumstance is this an acceptable situation. You know, we've dealt with stuff like this before. I think for the most part, though, this situation with CD Projekt Red is a lot worse. I think it's a much larger scale than anything we've ever seen with VR. But we have seen lots of little things like this before with certain games that have come out that have been they had these awful launches, all these issues. And yeah, I mean, if you do, like Dave said, if you do this with VR, you could potentially cause harm to people, like really, really bad, and make them really sick and stuff. And yeah, it's a little bit more dangerous with a newer experimental technology that's still developing versus flat screen. But yeah, in my opinion, there's no acceptable situation for everything the way that this was handled and whatnot. But that being said, I will down the line, like in a long time from now, maybe pick this game up for PS5 or something and try it out once it's been fixed, once it's on PS5 and something like that, and enjoy it once it's finished.
Yeah, I will say quickly that I think it is a little shady that they didn't provide review copies of the PS4 and Xbox.
A little
version.
Super shady,
like very shady, and like
Yeah.
I think they knew what they were releasing and did it anyways. And you've got to imagine that the sales on last gen consoles were much higher than on the new ones because everyone has a PS4 and no one can get a PS5.
right?
And so it's like there's a slice of people who can enjoy this the way it's supposed to be enjoyed, but almost everybody else is either forced to wait for patches or go through Sony's refund process, which sucks. And like, I don't know, it's a bad situation for everybody, I think.
We've seen similar things like this, and to me, it reminds me of Bravo Team. Bravo Team was like, they hyped up the game a whole bunch, and then they were just completely silent once it came out towards launch, and they knew what they were releasing. They knew that it was going to have a bunch of issues, and you know, they intentionally shut down streams of the game, didn't let people stream the game day one, and caused issues. Brian, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, CD Projekt Red knew what they were doing. They, as part of their embargo, if you wanted to release a review before street date, you weren't allowed to use your own footage. You had to use footage from the trailer. So they 100% knew what they were doing. But that's all sort of besides the point. I think to answer Todd's question, we have to kind of go all the way back to what he asked, which was what's the deal with the quality assurance and the certification process? And that it's not Sony's job to look for bugs or check for bad frame rates in a flat screen game. That's just not what they do. That's what developers are supposed to do. That is part of game testing, and that is part of beta testing, and that is part of programmers' jobs to make sure that the game works well and that The developers are going to be the one disappointing people, not Sony. Sony's not there to babysit developers and say, well, your frame rate just isn't cutting it, or there's a bug here that crashes. They don't have fucking time for that shit. That's not even important. And the same holds true for VR games. The only thing that Sony certification process adds to VR games is a solid frame rate, because as these guys were saying, you don't want to get people sick. Anything below 60 FPS can certainly make people sick, but they're not looking for bugs. They're making sure that people are that there are comfort settings on at launch, making sure that there's click turning available, making sure the frame rate is steady, and they don't give a fuck about bugs. You know, we've certainly played a ton of games that just blue screened, at the same time every single time we played it, and that's again not Sony's problem. As much as I like to say that's not Sony's responsibility, that doesn't take any of the responsibility away from the people whose responsibility it is. That's the developers, and they really need to get their shit together, especially when it comes to VR games, because we don't want to be making people sick. And that about does it for another episode of Viewer Takeover. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and hanging out with us and listening to us answer your questions. If you don't like the questions that were asked, well, ask better questions. Leave a Viewer Takeover question down below by leaving the hashtag Viewer Takeover, all one word. We'll find it and maybe answer it on next week's show. Or what you should be doing already, joining our Discord, that link is in the description, and leave your Viewer Takeover question in our Viewer Takeover channel over on our Discord. Also, change your name to GameCat. We got a whole channel for it.
Just for you guys.
That's right. Change your name to GameCat, hashtag GameCat in the comments below. Also, send your Viewer Takeover introductions to withoutparole@gmail.com, and consider supporting us over at patreon.com/withoutparole.
Games!
And that's about it. My name's Brian Paul. Make sure you subscribe to Dave at Dave Station VR. Subscribe to AJ at PSVR Underground. This was Viewer Takeover, and we're out.
We have 7 new Game Cats to welcome to the Game Cat Dojo.
Oh, yeah. Who's first?
Starting with, there might just be a gremlin in the hashtag Game Cat.
Or Seek, keeping it up, man.
Might just be.
Or Seek, thank you so much. I think Gremlins, one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time.
Is that or Seek or is that Hotcakes?
Did I say Or Seek?
Yes.
Okay, let's try that again. Or Seek, keeping it up, man. Like, change his name every single week, and I gotta say, I think Gremlins.
You just said...
You did it again.
No
This
way.
is the outro. You've got the outro right here.
It might have to
it twice in a row.
Okay.
I think I'm having a stroke right now.